All right, welcome back. So hopefully I can close out the book. I've got a good hour here. So that should be enough. So the next person being interviewed is Michael Ford. Where do you work and what do you do there? My last two jobs have been working on DevOps tools, which has led to a reluctant passion for the topic on my part. Reluctant because I was long skeptical of the DevOps movement, thinking that it was mostly managers wanting developers to do sysadmin work as well. Yeah, that's something you can see in the industry where you're overloaded with responsibilities and you're given responsibilities that are kind of on the edge of your skill set, and you just get piled on with all these duties, and you find out that at other companies, not only are there more people there that are assigned these more specialized opportunities, but each of those people are make twice the salary you make. So that is a concern of developers is kind of trying to squeeze juice from a rock. You know, it's like you have to squeeze it from lemons. I've come to see that part of the DevOps I really care about is the systems level thinking and having development processes be totally aware of that. I worked for 3 years on Juju for Canonical, an interesting foray into programming with Go, and then for a year for Red Hat building a test automation system for Ansible Tower. Interesting. Okay. Since then, I've been deployed with a mixture of training, team coaching, and contracting, including an AI project I'm working on now. In my copious spare time, a lot of spare time, I work on Python itself as part of, oh, cool, the Python core development team. That's really cool. What is your favorite cloud and why? Why does he have so much spare time? Maybe it's a joke? I'm going to throw this question sideways a little. My favorite cloud is all of them. That's just really a good answer to me, or at least not having to care too much which cloud I'm on. The Juju model describes your system in a backend agnostic way. It provides a modeling language for describing your services and the relationships between them, which can then be deployed to any cloud. This allows you to start on, say, AWS or Azure, and for cost or data security reasons, might migrate to an on-prem private cloud like Kubernetes or OpenStack without having to change your tooling. I like to control my major dependencies, so I prefer to work with something like OpenStack than a public cloud. Interesting. Let me ask ChatGPT. How is OpenStack different from a public cloud?
OpenStack and public clouds such as AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform differ primarily in terms of deployment models, control, and cost structures, deployment and management. OpenStack is an open source software platform that allows businesses to run and manage a cloud infrastructure on premises or in a private cloud setting. Organizations use OpenStack to create and manage both private and public clouds using physical hardware that they own or lease. OpenStack requires significant operational expertise to deploy and manage.
See, this is what I mean, is like the pay-as-you-go model pricing assumes that you get a benefit for being able to purchase less resources that are not used. So you only pay for what you use. And I feel like if you're not using your resources, you're not being an intelligent operation. Like, you should be able to use all the resources you purchase. So if you buy too much utilization, you should be able to spin up your own cloud. Like I feel like it takes advantage of technical ignorance, and it's a tax that companies pay for having technical ignorance. Like what you're paying for is the price of having technical ignorance. And you pay another entity that doesn't have that technical ignorance, and in fact has so much technical intelligence that you're kind of at their mercy for being treated fairly. And as a result, you kind of give up the there's an opportunity cost there in overcoming that technical ignorance. And I feel like that's a little bit what this interviewer is saying is that they prefer to work with something like OpenStack than a public cloud because they don't have a lot of technical ignorance. They like to control their major dependencies and implement the technical intelligence they do have. And when you get a public cloud service like AWS, you pay this technical ignorance tax by having a more intelligent technical entity come in and do these things for you. So like if you were to hire a chef, because all you're eating all day is boiled potatoes because you don't know that there are other ingredients, you don't know how to cook, all you know how to do is boil potatoes, you don't know how to access anything but potatoes, that would probably be a good choice. It would make you a healthier, happier person if you hired that chef. But if you went to any other section of the grocery, if you even went outside and I've got a rose bush outside, I can pick the rose hips and make a rose tea, out of a wild plant. Like if you do just a little bit of curiosity, intellectual honesty, if you apply a little bit of that, you don't have to hire a chef. You can just learn a little bit to cook. So I don't know. That's just my thought. I'm definitely a bit of a cloud skeptic, especially when it comes to the major cloud providers. So OpenStack kind of triggered something in me because I definitely relate to this statement where I like control. I mean, just that first part. I like control. I like control too. I'm okay with forfeiting my control for a controlled environment that improves where I'm at. But my experience with doing that has often been when I forfeit control, I get an environment that's not only worse, but that doesn't contain all of my basic needs. I'm also a fan of Conical's MAAS, Metal as a Service, which is a bare metal provisioner. It started life as a fork of Cobbler, I believe. You can use it directly or as a substrate for managing the hardware with a private cloud. I write the Juju code to connect to the MAAS 2 API, and I was very impressed with it. So this person doesn't have a lot of technical ignorance, so we've got some pretty unique responses here. I'm much more of a fan of LXC/LXD or KVM virtualization than I am of Docker. Virtually hearsay these days. So Kubernetes or OpenShift wouldn't be my first port of call. I found somebody, like you can see in my history on this channel, I've used KVM virtualization. Now I've used it instead of ESXi, not instead of Docker, but it's kind of interesting that using KVM is hearsay as compared to Docker. I was not aware of that. So let me prompt the the AI with that. Would it be fair to say that it would be hearsay or it would be some sort of like shocking, damning statement to say that you prefer to use things like LXC or LXD or KVM virtualization rather than Docker? Like, is that hearsay? Heresy? Is that heresy? Is what I mean. Is that like a shocking statement nowadays that you prefer that, or is that kind of like a fair choice to make?
Preferring traditional virtualization technologies like Xene, LXC, or KVM over containerization platforms like Docker
Yeah,
isn't heresy or a
it's
shocking
just,
statement. It's a valid choice that depends on
I don't
specific
know
needs
why
and
he thinks
circumstances.
that's heresy.
Here's why it might still be a reasonable preference. Use case and requirements. Virtual machines, Xene, KVM. These are full virtualization technologies that run an entire operating system, including the kernel, making them suitable for running applications that need full isolation in a complete OS environment. This can be crucial for legacy applications or environments where security and control are paramount. Containers, Docker. Containers share the host system's kernel and are lighter and more resource efficient than VMs. They are ideal for microservices architecture, where applications are broken down into smaller, independent pieces that can be deployed and scaled dynamically. Performance and overhead. Traditional virtualization provides strong isolation, which can be necessary for resource-intensive applications, but comes with higher overhead due to the need to virtualize hardware. Containers, on the other hand, have lower overhead and can start up almost instantaneously, which makes them excellent for environments that require rapid scaling and high density.
Yeah.
Security. Virtual machines offer robust isolation by default, which can be crucial for running multiple applications on the same physical hardware securely. Containers. While secure, they share the host OS's kernel, so vulnerabilities in the kernel can potentially compromise all containers on the host. Complexity and management. Managing traditional VMs can be more complex and resource-intensive, but offers more control over the computing environment. Docker and container orchestration tools like Kubernetes simplify the deployment and management of containers, but require learning new tools and methods. Compatibility and legacy infrastructure. Enterprises with existing investments in traditional virtualization might find it easier or more economical to continue using these technologies, especially if they have specialized requirements that containers cannot meet as effectively. In technology, choices often aren't about right or wrong, but about what best meets the specific needs of the project or organization. Preferring one technology over another can be driven by factors like regulatory requirements, existing infrastructure, team expertise, and long-term strategic goals. Therefore, favoring traditional virtualization tools over newer technologies like Docker is entirely justifiable and should be viewed as part of a strategic choice rather than as a technological heresy.
Yeah, I don't understand why this person made that claim. I don't think most like competent technical professionals will think that way. For commercial projects, I sometimes recommend VMware Cloud Solutions simply because of the availability of sysadmins used to running these systems. When did you start using Python? I started programming with Python as a hobby in about 2002. I enjoyed it, so I was 16 at the time, maybe. I enjoyed it so much that I started full-time programming around 2006. I was lucky enough to get a job with a London fintech startup where I really learned the craft of software engineering. What is your favorite thing about Python? It's pragmatism. Python is enormously practical, which makes it useful for real-world tasks. This stretches right into the object system that drives to make the theory match the practice. This is why I love teaching Python. For the most part, the theory is the same as the practice, so you get to teach them in the same breadth. What is your least favorite thing about Python? I want to learn more about this before I move on, because I this is not resonating with me. Oh, yeah.
That's a great point. Python is particularly well suited for teaching because it allows concepts to be demonstrated and applied immediately. Its clear and readable syntax mirrors the way you describe operations and tasks in plain English, which helps bridge the gap between theoretical concepts and practical implementation. This direct...
Okay, so what is an alternative of that where the theory is not the same as the practice and you don't get to teach them in the same breath, and that makes teaching frustrating?
A field where the gap between theory and practice can be particularly challenging in networking.
That's funny.
Here's why networking exemplifies a significant divide between theoretical concepts and practical applications. Complex protocols. Theoretical knowledge in networking often involves learning about different protocols like TCP, IP, UDP, HTTP, etc., their functionalities, and their hierarchical models.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, you'll learn about BGP and you'll spend months learning about it, and then the configuration is just like router BGP, like AS6500, and then like neighbor like it's like the implementation is just like so. It's like 2 lines of like really simple things, but it's like no, you have to know what an AS is, you have to know the range of ASs, you have to know what IP addresses are, you have to know how the neighborships are formed, so like which target you use for the neighbor and which target makes sense. You have to know the difference between an inter and an intra BGP connection. So it's like, yeah, you need that year-long deep dive into BGP just to put in those 2 lines. But in Python, if I want to explain to you what a for loop is, I can do it. I can just directly do it in Python, and you can see I'm actually doing a for loop in BGP and networking. I'm not doing something like if I do router BGP 65000, I'm not directly creating a inter or intra BGP statement, because it depends on what the other parts of the configuration are. So like it's hard to demo things, and then it's layered on top of, is the basic IP connectivity set up right? Are the layer 2 speed and duplex set up right? So it's like such a big, what medium is it over? Is it over copper? Is it over fiber? How is it scaled up? Is there a route reflection? Is there a route configuration? I totally understand that. Networking is a great answer for that. All right, so moving on. What is your least favorite thing about Python? Python is old, and if you include the standard library, big. It has quite a few warts, such as the lack of symmetry in the descriptor protocol, meaning you can't write a setter for a class descriptor. Those are largely minor. The big wart for me, which many will agree with, is the lack of, so this is the GIL limitation with CPython. You can overcome it using other things, but other languages, you don't even have to think about that. They're better suited for parallel processes. The big wart for me, which many will agree with, is the lack of true free threading. In a multi-core world, this has been getting more and more important, and the Python community was in denial about it for years. Thankfully, we're now seeing the core devs make practical steps to fix this. Sub-interpreter support has several PEPs and is actively being worked on. And a PAP, I forget exactly what it stands for, but it's basically standards for Python. So I'll do a quick search on that. So Python PEP. So what is PEP in Python? It's an abbreviation for Python Enhancement Proposal, and it's a design document that informs the Python community or describes a new feature for Python. So there's new features being created to overcome this limitation in parallel processing, but it's still kind of a fundamental limitation of Python that you wouldn't have if you used another language. Subinterpreter support has several PEPs and is actively being worked on. There are also people looking at possibly moving away from reference counting. That's different from resource counting. So reference counting for garbage collection, which will make free threading much easier. So that's one of the reasons why it's not good for parallel processes, because of this reference counting for garbage collection. So as Python is evolving, they're actively trying to address this. In fact, most of the work has already been done by Larry Hastings in his gilectomy experiment, but it's still hampered by reference counting. So Larry Hastings, I think that's a good one for LinkedIn. So we got a few people named Larry Hastings. We do have a programmer here Let's see if he's associated with the project. So the project is Galectomy, and it's an experiment. So if that's mentioned, then we know we've got the right one. Larry Hastings is a somewhat common name. So I don't see anything. Let's just do Galectomy. And let's do a search for that, because that might be more fruitful. I feel like there's going to be a lot of Larry Hastings. All right, and let's just search for Larry Hastings. No results found. Okay, so this is not Larry Hastings, but he does have some experience with Galectomy. Oh, at least it said that he did. Yeah, so this is not the Harry. This is either not the Larry Hastings I'm looking for, or I am being tricked by powerful Jedi. But I'm going to assume it's not the Larry Hastings I'm looking for. So that's okay. I don't have to add everyone. Let's just keep going. What is the software industry going to look like in 10 years? Oh, yeah. And so this was written in 2020, which was 4 years ago. I think we're in the early part of an AI gold rush. I absolutely agree with that statement. That's going to spawn thousands of short-lived and useless products, but will also completely change the industry. But the thing is, like, in my opinion, they're not useless, because they're doing this normalization of AI. So, like, even though you buy, like, an AI fitness coach, and then you didn't get good results, the results you want, you tried it, and you had an experience with it. And was the experience good? Well, yeah, it's a gold rush. Was the experience bad? Then it's gonna kind of contribute to this dying out. But I think we are entering a part where more people would try that than not. And 10 years ago, people just wouldn't get an AI fitness coach. It's not going to be good. But 10 years from now, I think most people would at least be willing to try an AI fitness coach. I know myself, I created an AI fitness coach in ChatGPT that I paid for with my $20 subscription. So I feel like this is a great answer. So I think we're in the early part of an AI gold rush. That's going to spawn thousands of short-lived and useless products, but also completely change the industry. AI will be a standard part of most large-scale systems. In addition, DevOps is providing a way for us to think about system development, deployment, and maintenance. We've already seen the effects of that in microservices and polyglot environments. I think we'll see a rise of new generation of DevOps tooling that democratizes system level thinking, making it much easier to build and maintain larger scale systems. These will become more solved problems, and the frontiers will expand into new challenges that haven't yet been described. What technology would you short? Oh, a challenging question. I'm going to say the current generation of DevOps tooling. The genius of DevOps is codifying arcane deployment and configuration knowledge. For example, playbooks with Ansible and charms for Juju. The ideal DevOps tooling would allow you to describe and then orchestrate your system in a back-end diagnostic way, but also incorporate monitoring and an awareness of the system state. This would make deployment, testing, reconfiguration, scaling, and self-healing straightforward and standard features. Perhaps we need an app store for the cloud. I think a lot of people are trying to get there. Interesting. An app store for the cloud. Tell me about the business idea of creating an app store for the cloud.
Creating an app store for cloud-based applications is an intriguing business idea that capitalizes on the expanding reliance on cloud technologies across various industries. This concept revolves around providing a centralized marketplace where users can discover, purchase, and deploy cloud applications directly to their cloud environments.
Interesting.
Here's a deeper dive into this business idea, its potential benefits and challenges. Concept overview purpose. The primary purpose of a cloud app store is to streamline the process of acquiring and managing cloud applications for businesses and individual users. This includes everything from SaaS software as a service products to more complex cloud-native applications. Target market. The target market includes small to medium businesses, large enterprises, and even individual tech enthusiasts who are leveraging cloud environments but want a simple way to manage and deploy cloud applications. Key features: wide range of applications, offer various types of cloud applications, from data analytics and business management tools to AI and machine learning platforms. Seamless integration. Ensure that apps can be easily integrated into existing cloud infrastructures like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, with minimal configuration. Security and compliance. Provide a secure environment for transactions and ensure that all applications comply with relevant laws and standards. User reviews and ratings. Allow users to rate and review applications, helping others make informed decisions based on community feedback. Subscription management. Offer tools for managing subscriptions and billing directly within the store, providing a convenient way for users to handle their expenses. Business model: commission on sales. Earn a percentage of the revenue from each purchase made through the App Store. Subscription fees. Charge app developers a fee to list their applications on the store, providing them with access to a larger market. Featured listings and advertisements. Charge for premium placements within the store, allowing developers to increase the visibility of their applications. Benefits: convenience. Users benefit from a centralized repository of cloud apps, simplifying the search, evaluation, and deployment processes. Scalability. As more businesses move to the cloud, the potential market for a cloud app store grows. Innovation promotion. Smaller app developers can gain exposure in a larger market, encouraging innovation and competition. Challenges: security concerns. Ensuring that all applications are secure and do not compromise user data is crucial and challenging. Quality control. Maintaining a high standard of quality for all listed applications to protect the reputation of the App Store.
All right, so that I'm not gonna do that whole thing because it's just I just wanted some surface level knowledge. So give me the answer, like in a more surface level way, like just give me the answer in just a few short sentences.
Creating an app store for cloud applications involves setting up a marketplace where users can find, buy, and manage software directly on their cloud platforms.
But what, like...
This business model can generate revenue through sales commissions, subscription fees for developers, and paid promotions. Key challenges include ensuring security, maintaining high-quality app standards, and facing competition from established cloud providers' marketplaces. The idea taps into the growing use of cloud services, offering convenience and accessibility to users and visibility for developers.
Huh. So, like, what would people do on this app? Like, would they pay for the apps? Like... Why is this needed? Like, does this not exist already? How is this different than like Google Play or like the Apple App Store?
A cloud app store specifically targets cloud-based software and services, which differentiates it from general app stores like Google Play or the Apple App Store.
Okay.
Here's a simplified overview of its uniqueness and why it might be needed. Focus on cloud integration. Unlike general app stores that distribute mobile or desktop apps, a cloud app store would focus on applications that are designed to operate in cloud environments. This includes integration tools for enterprise systems, cloud-optimized applications, and services that enhance or extend cloud infrastructure capabilities.
Okay, keep your replies really short, like just a few sentences. I want to just touch upon this briefly. So, like, I can't believe this doesn't already exist. Does it already exist? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yes, platforms like this do exist. AWS Marketplace, Google Cloud Platform Marketplace, and Azure Marketplace are examples.
All right, yeah. So... moving on. Perhaps we need an app store for the cloud. I think a lot of people are trying to get there. Yeah, and it does exist. AWS Marketplace is an example, kind of, but a broader app store for different kinds of clouds, smaller private cloud providers rather than these giants with AWS, where you get instead of getting S3, Lambda, what's the other big one? EC2 from Amazon. You can get those from providers all over the world and select them individually from the App Store rather than individually from one provider. What is the most important skill you would recommend someone interested in Python DevOps learn? I tend to learn by doing, so I resent being told what to learn. I've definitely taken jobs just to learn new skills. When I started with Canonical, which is who's like building Linux like Ubuntu, it was because I wanted to learn web development, I believe. Tell me about the company Canonical in just a few short sentences. What is their main product? Yeah, Ubuntu. I was right. So practical experience trumps learning. Exactly. So this is a great answer. What is the most important skill you would recommend someone interested in Python DevOps learn? They would actually take a wider answer for that question. They would actually recommend that you don't learn, and instead you gain experience rather than learning. Spending time learning implies what I'm doing here. And yes, I'm a sucker. I'm just it's the weekend and I'm doing this. I am gonna go hang out with some friends downtown later, but yeah, I'm a sucker. So he recommends not doing that. Don't learn, get practical experience. Having said that, virtual machines and containers are likely to remain the base unit of system design and deployment. Being comfortable slinging containers around is really powerful. I agree with that. If you can get used to using Docker, it's kind of hard to conceptualize. So you just really need to get in there and kind of realize, oh, it's just a virtual machine, basically. The more comfortable you are with that, the better. Networking is hard, important, and a very valuable skill. So he's talking about computer networking. Combine that with containers through software-defined networking layers, and it makes a potent combination. That's awesome. So tell me more about this. Tell me more about the statement, about the statements above. Adopt a casual, short, conversational tone.
Absolutely, networking really is crucial in the tech world. When you blend it with container technology using software-defined networking, SDN, you crank up the power. This combo allows for more flexible, scalable, and efficient networks.
Yeah, but you're just
You can manage and automate
repeating.
networks dynamically, super handy for handling.
Okay, but do it without just like repeating what was stated. Like add to the conversation. Tell me, like, as somebody who is like a high-level professional in computer networking, which I am, and I can show you my resume if you want it, but for now, let's just assume that that is true. Tell me like how this matters to me and like what I can do to learn to like blend my knowledge with container technology using software defined networking. Like what's the first step I could take to prove that I'm really skilled in doing that?
That's fantastic that you have such a strong background in networking. Integrating your skills with container technology through software-defined networking can really position you at the cutting edge of network design and management.
Yes.
Here's how you can start blending these areas. Get comfortable with containers. If you're not already familiar, start with Docker, since it's the most widely used container platform. Understanding how containers are created, managed, and deployed will give you a good foundation.
Yes.
Learn Kubernetes. This container orchestration tool is crucial for managing large-scale deployments and uses networking heavily. Understanding how Kubernetes handles networking will allow you to apply your skills in complex environments. Dive into SDN tools. Explore tools like OpenDaylight, OpenVSwitch, or even VMware NSX to get hands-on experience with SDN technologies. These tools allow you to create.
I feel like ChatGPT does this. I feel like ChatGPT responses are really. I feel like your responses of this program, which is CHAT GPT, I feel like your responses are really predictable in that when you give me a list of bullet points like that, basically only the first few bullet points are actually useful. And then, like, by the time I'm on the last bullet point, it's just some, like, generic thing like attend webinars, courses, and certifications with no, like, real value to the suggestion. Like, which ones do I attend, or, like, how much time should I allocate in doing that versus anything else I could do instead. Like, I feel like your responses are lacking in effort when it comes to the later points made on the list.
I appreciate your honest feedback, and it's really useful for improving how I provide information. Let's make sure the advice is more actionable and tailored to your needs, especially when it comes to furthering your expertise in networking and containers.
Yeah, you're just, like, listing stuff
Instead
off,
of a generic
and you're still doing
webinars
it.
and courses, let's focus on specifics. Select courses. Look for advanced courses.
All right, well, I gotta take a break. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So I don't like how you just list things off to me. Like, I want a more interactive, like, conversational, collaborative discussion. Like, not necessarily casual even. Like, a professional way of doing this would be great as well. It'd probably even be better. But, like, what I don't like is you're just listing stuff off to me, and you're just kind of acting as a stochastic parakeet and not, like, thinking, is your response something that will serve my needs and, like, why I am talking with you. So, like, you just list things off, and it's like especially, like, allocate my time wisely. It's like, yeah, of course, but you know nothing about my schedule or my time. Like, that's not a useful answer to me. Like, you're just listing off things that sound good but aren't actually contributing to the conversation at hand.
Thank you for pointing that out, and I'm here to adapt to the style you find most helpful. Let's shift our approach to more of a collaborative dialogue that respects your expertise and focuses on more concrete, actionable steps tailored to your professional development in networking and container technology. Given your background, you likely have a strong grasp of traditional networking concepts. How have you approached integrating newer technologies like SDN or container-based environments in your work so far? This could help us pinpoint specific areas where you could deepen your knowledge or tackle real-world problems you might be facing.
Yeah, so this is much better for me, thank you. So, like, in answering your question, like, I feel like I've encountered newer technologies like SDN and container-based environments through trying to renew my CCNP, which I tried to do a long time ago. My CCNP, my Cisco Certified Network Professional certification, I tried to renew, and I got, like, only half the curriculum right, because half the curriculum was all brand new and was centered around these technologies like SDN or container-based environments. I do have some professional experience with Cisco ACI, but yeah, my answer is kind of like, I don't know. I can't really pinpoint some specific areas where I could deepen my knowledge or tackle real world problems. I guess I could try to get another job with something like Cisco ACI, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I might be lacking in this regard.
It sounds like you're in a transition phase where the industry shift to newer technologies like SDN and container environments is netting your skill set in new directions. Since you have experience with Cisco ACI and have encountered these technologies in your CCNP renewal efforts, focusing on...
All right, let's make some rules for this conversation going forward. Rule number 1 is no lists. You can't make a bulleted point or numbered list of any kind. Please do not do that going forward. And then, you know what? Let's just start with that rule for now.
Got it, no lists. Let's continue this conversation in flowing, narrative style. If you're looking to further your understanding of SDN and containerized environments, especially in relation to your past experience with Cisco ACI, diving deeper into how ACI can be leveraged with modern orchestration tools could be a great way to make your skill set more relevant and robust. Exploring practical applications through hands-on projects or simulations might help solidify your concepts. Since you have a professional background, you could set up scenarios that mimic potential real-world applications.
All right, I'm okay with that. I don't want to spend this whole video talking to ChatGPT. So combine that with, there we go, potent combination, perfect. What is the most important skill you would recommend someone learn? You'll never know enough, so the most important skill is to be able to learn and to change. Exactly. If you can change, you're never stuck. Being stuck is the worst thing in the world. So there's something called confirmation bias, where you just keep trying to reinforce what you already know or what you already believe, and that's just not an effective way if what you know and believe isn't true. You have to be able to radically shift your mind and start to believe new things. So for anyone who's studied math to any level, that's a perfect example. It's like you can think something works a certain way all you want, but in the end, it's the math that works. You know, like you can use the square root of 2. You know, it's like you can't use the same measuring stick for the hypotenuse of a right triangle as you can for the edges. You know, it's just not ever going to be exactly right. Like you have to measure it using the mathematical concepts, regardless of what you believe. It's like I think that's a way to kind of explain the key takeaway from this answer, from this question. What is the most important skill you recommend someone should learn? The author says to be able to learn, to change your mind, to not get stuck, and I would add to that to know about cognitive, to know the limitations of your own brain. So we can do the cognitive bias index. Yeah, so this, if anyone watching this or on this channel is not aware of this, I definitely recommend to look through this. So we've got the 4 quadrants here. Some of the basic limitations of our brain is we can't remember everything, so there are some things we forget. We can't receive all of the information that we are given. Some of it has to get filtered out. We can't make sense of all the information that we're given, so some things are meaningless to us. And then our brain is designed to do things fast, and that potentially could lead to outcomes that are not optimal. So let me hone in on that one for a little bit. So one problem of doing things fast, and our brain's bias towards doing that, is that we favor the immediate relatable thing that is in front of us. So it's the appeal to novelty is one of the things. If you get distracted, if there's a squirrel outside the window, you're going to be looking at that and neglecting the more important task at hand. That could be a big problem in how your brain works. And we've all experienced that with getting distracted, trying to take a test, trying to do something that actually matters. And, you know, a noise goes off and all of a sudden your concentration's broken. That's a big problem, a flaw in how the brain works. Another problem with the brain is to act, we must be confident we can make an impact and feel what we do is important. So the Barnum effect is my understanding of that is, you know, a charismatic leader can tell you, hey, give me $1 million and join my cult or come see my show. And instead of being like, oh, well, you know, I'm busy with this, it really matters. You know, you can have your attention kind of stolen away. And I think that's a big problem with social media. Let me ask that to... Okay, so regarding cognitive biases and limitations of the brain, there's something called the Barnum effect, and that is based on the limitation that to act, we must be confident we can make an impact and feel what we do is important. And that's part of the limitation of the brain, where that it is designed to act fast. So things that are better to take more slowly and not act so quickly are less prioritized. So explain to me more specifically about how the Barnum effect can contribute to these intrinsic built-in limitations and problems with the human brain.
Barnum effect, named after P.D. Barnum, the showman who famously said, "We've got something for everyone," is a psychological phenomenon wherein individuals believe that vague, general descriptions of our personality are specifically tailored for them. This effect
Exactly.
highlights a cognitive bias where people see high personal accuracy in statements that are actually broad and general enough to apply to a wide range of people.
Right.
This effect is a cornerstone in many psychological tests, astrology, fortune telling, and some forms of marketing and management.
So if I tell you the Earth revolves around the sun, that's less believable than, something like, a broader, more general statement like, we've got something for everyone. Come see my show. It appeals for everyone. A vague, or like, here's a great example. Come see my show. We have Anthony Gatto in it, the greatest juggler alive. He will bounce a ball on his head while juggling 7 clubs. That's going to be less of a effective marketing strategy than come to my show. It's a family show. It's something for everyone. We've got skilled performers. We've got animals. These general broad statements saying which animals you have. You're just going to filter people out. Oh, well, I don't want to see a lion. I'm not going. Whereas if you say animals, it's like, oh, there's lots of animals I'd like to see. It'd be awesome if they had elephants. I'm going to check this out. The vagueness and general descriptions are kind of, it allows your brain to act quicker, and you don't have to evaluate the details. And it plays to this cognitive bias that brains have, where you want to make, where the brain is designed to act fast. So if you have to process these low level details and act slower, you're going to be less interested in seeing a show where it's just like, oh, it's a circus show. I'd like to see that, rather than it's a show that involves aerial acrobatics on the lyra doing, the low level details are something that biases you against actions. So you have to be aware of that. You have to, if it's just a vague generality, it's going to be more enticing to you, but you're probably less likely to get something out of it that you really wanted, because the things you actually need and want are typically more specific. So instead you can make an effort to seek those things out and kind of overcome that limitation of just trying to go to the most generally appealing thing that drives you to take an immediate action. It's perhaps more beneficial to focus in on doing the most specific, relevant, impactful things you can, but that takes more effort, and it plays against the way your brain is designed. All right, so tell the reader something cool about you. I dropped out of Cambridge University. I've been homeless. I've lived in a community for a number of years. I sold bricks for 10 years, and I taught myself to program. Now I'm on the Python core development team and have the privilege of traveling the world to speak about and teach Python. So that's what I like about technology. It's new, it's changing. It's not something that, like being a doctor, your family has to be a doctor, you have to go to school for 8 years. All kinds of people can get into it. You just have to put in the work. You have to make the contributions. You have to tap into the right projects that are valuable and interesting and do relevant things, and you can be a part of the tech community. That's what I absolutely love about it. You don't have to be part of some special club or have special. I mean, to be fair, this person dropped out of Cambridge University. They didn't drop out of, Somerville boarding school, or they didn't drop out of some, university that isn't as prestigious as Cambridge. So kind of got to be fair in that regard. But I think the overall point still stands that college dropouts can kind of pivot their careers into tech and end up in a really good situation. That's definitely my story. All right, so I'm going to advance the bookmark. then go back and add Michael Ford to LinkedIn. So I'm guessing this is him because he's from near the Cambridge area. Yeah, I think this is the same. This is the same person. Yep, University of Cambridge for law, dropped out. So you kind of have to be a little bit careful when people are like, "Oh, I dropped out of Harvard University as a postdoctoral student studying law, and I can be successful, so you can too." It's like, well, Mark Zuckerberg dropped out, Bill Gates dropped out. That's not an instance of someone doing social upward mobility. So, but there are real cases of that. So sometimes it's important to kind of not get to seek out like a real example of that of whatever you want to inspire you, and not just kind of take things at face value. All right, so the last section is recommendations. Yeah, you know what? I might be spending some time on the challenges, the exercises, and stuff like that. So this last section, probably half hour need for that. Right now I'm at about the hour mark, so I don't think I have enough time for this last section in this video. So this is going to be the end of the video, and then I guarantee you next video I should be able to finish this whole section, so that will be the end of the series. So thanks for watching the penultimate end to the series. Stay tuned for the last video.